Hari Om. Let us begin with this evening's satsang. Sprinkle water all around the Vedi and on yourselves. Om apavitraha pavitro va sarvavasthangatophi va yah smaret pundarikaksham sabahyabhyantaraha suchi. Now sip water from the palm of the right hand 3 times, each time thinking about Bhagwan. Om Keshavaya Namaha. Om Narayanaya Namaha. Om Madhavaya Namaha. Now rinse your hands. Om Hrishikeshaya Namaha. Om Govindaya Namaha. Om Madhusudanaya Namaha. If you have a kusring, you can put that on. Om Pavitresto Vaishnavyo Saviturva Prasvatpunam Chidrena Pavitrena Suryasya Rashmabhi Tasyate Pavitrapati Pavitraputasya Yat Kama Pune Tachakeyam. Apply Chandan Tika to your forehead using the thumb of the right hand. Om Chandanam Vandate Nityam Pavitram Papanasanam Apadam Harite Nityam Lakshmir Vasati Sarvada. Light your chirag if it hasn't already been lit. Om Bhodhipa Tvam Brahma Rupa Andhakara Nivaraka Imam Mayaktam Pujang Grihasti Jo Pravardhaya Om Deepaya Namaha. We are now going to do Ved mantras and Dhyan mantras of the various devatas. It should appear on your screen shortly. Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Dhyan Moolam Gurur Murti, Puja Moolam Guru Padam, Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam, Moksha Moolam Guru Kripa. Om Swasti na Indro Vridashava, Swasti na Pusha Vishvaveda, Swasti na Starik Shura Rishtanemi, Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu, Om Payah Prithivyam Payah Oshadhishu, Payo Divyantarikshe Payodhaha, Payaswati Pradishaha Santu Mahyam. Om Vishnoratamasi Vishno Shnaptrestho Vishno Syurasi Vishno Dhruvasi Vaishnavamasi Vishnavetva. Om Agnir Devata Vato Devata Suryo Devata Chandrama Devata Vasavo Devata Rudra Devata Titya Devata Maruto Devata Vishwe Deva Devata Brihaspatir Devatendra Devata Varuno Devata Om Dyoho Shantirantariksha Gung Shanti Prithivi Shantir Apah Shantir Oshadhaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shantir Vishwe Devaha Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarva Gung Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredhi. Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuha Yad Bhadrang Tanna Asuha Sushantir Bhavatu. Om Ano वृत्राः क्रतवो यन्तु विश्वतो तब्धासो अपरितास उद्भिदः देवानो यथा सदमिद्वृधे असन्न प्रायुवो रक्षितारो दिवे दिवे ॐ देवानां भद्र सुमतिर्यजो यथा देवान् गुङ्राथिरभिनो निवर्तताम् देवानागुं सख्यम् उपसेदिमा वयं देवान् आयुः प्रतिरन्तु जीवसे ॐ तान् पूर्वया निविदाहुमहे वयं भगं मित्रम् आदितिं दक्षमस्त्रिधम् आर्यमनं वरुणगुं सोममश्विन सरस्वती नः सुभगामयस्करत् ॐ तन्नो वातो मयो भुवातु भेषजं तन्माता पृथिवी तत्पिता द्योः तद्ग्रावानः सोमसुतो मयो भुवस्तदश्विन श्नुतं धिष्ण्यायुवम् ॐ तमीशानं जगतस्तस्तु षत्पतिं धियन् जिन्वमवसे होमहे वयम् पूषानो यथा वेद साम सद्वृद्धे रक्षिता पायुर्दब्धः स्वस्तये ॐ स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृदशवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्योररिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ पृषदश्वा मरुतः कृष्णिमातर शुभं यावानो विदथेषु जग्मयः अग्निजिह्वा मनवः सूरचक्षसो विश्वेनो देवा अवसागमन्निः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देव भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्ट्वा वंशस्तनुभिर्व्यशेमहि देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शतमिन्नो शरदो यन्ति देवयत्रानश्चक्रजरसन्तनूनां पुत्रासो यत्र पितरो भवन्ति मानो मध्यारीरिषितार्युर्गन्तोः ॐ अदितिर्द्योरदितिरन्तरिक्षम् अदितिर्माता स पिता स पुत्रः विश्वे देवा अदितिः पञ्चजना अदितिर्जातम् अदितिर्जनित्वम् ॐ ऋचं वाचं प्रपद्ये मनो यजुः प्रपद्ये साम प्राणं प्रपद्ये चक्षुश्रोत्रं प्रपद्ये वागोजः सहोजो मयि प्राणपाणौ ॐ तं पत्नीभिरनुगच्छेम देवाः पुत्रैर्भ्रातृभिरुत वा हिरण्यैः नाकं गृभनानः सुकृतस्य लोके तृतीये पृष्ठे अधिरोचने दिवः ॐ आयुष्यं वर्चस्य ग्वङ्ग्राय स्पोषमुद्भिदम् इदग्वं हिरण्यं वर्चस्वजैत्राय विशताद्दुमाम् ॐ द्योः शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगुं शान्ति पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरौषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वगुं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि ॐ यतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अभयं कुरु शन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो भयं न पशुभ्यः ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः सुशान्तिर्भवतु ॐ हे हे रम्ब त्वमेह्ये हि अम्बिका त्र्यम्बकात्मज सिद्धि बुद्धि पतित्रक्ष लक्ष लाभ पितुः पितः नागास्य नागहारत्वं गणराजा चतुर्भुज भूषितः स्वायुधैर्दिव्यै पाशङ्कुशपरश्वधैः आवाहयामि पूजार्थं रक्षार्थं च मम कृतः इहाँ गत्य गृहाण त्वं पूजां कर्तुं च रक्ष मे ॐ मनोच्चवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयुक्तमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये अञ्जनिगर्भसम्भूतं कपीन्द्रं सचिवोत्तमं रामप्रियं नमस्तुभ्यं हनुमान् रक्ष सर्वदा ॐ ध्यायेदाजानुबाहुं धृतशरधनुषं बद्धपद्मासनस्थं पीतं वासोवसानं नवकमलदलस्पर्धिनेत्रं प्रसन्नं वामाङ्कारूढ सीतामुखकमल नीललोचनं नीरदाभन् नाना अलङ्कारदीप्तं ददतमुरुजट मण्डलं रामचन्द्रम् ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थित तत्कतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगण देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ वसुदेव सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ शान्तं पद्मासनस्थं शशधरमुकुटं पञ्चवक्त्रं त्रिनेत्रं शूलं वज्रं च खड्गं च परशुम् अभयदं दक्षिणाङ्गे वहन्तं नागपाशं च घण्टां डमरुकसहितम् अङ्कुशं वामभागे नाना अलङ्कारदीप्तं स्फटिकमणिनिभं पार्वतीशं नमामि। ॐ या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्म अच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापः। ॐ लक्ष्मी क्षीरसमुद्रराजतनयां श्रीरङ्गधामेश्वरीं दासीभूत समस्तदेववनितां लोकैकदीपाङ्कुरां श्रीमन्मन्दकटाक्षलब्धविभव ब्रह्मेन्द्र गंगाधरान् तान् त्रैलोक्यकुटुम्बिनीं सरसिजां वन्दे मुकुन्द प्रियाम्। ॐ सीताराम पवनसुत हनुमान राधे कृष्ण की जय। Chalisa and bhajans now.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रजा निज मन मुकुर सुधार बरनो रघुवर विमल यश जो दायक बलचार बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरो कलेश विकार सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। अच्युत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा, कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। निर्विकार ओमकार अविनाशी तुम ही देवदेव, जगत सर्जग प्रयन करता शिवम सत्यम सुंदरा। निर्विकार ओमकार अविनाशी तुम ही देवदेव, जगत सर्जग प्रयन करता शिवम सत्यम सुंदरा, शिवम सत्यम सुंदरा। निरंकार स्वरूप कालेश्वर महायोगीश्वरा, दयानिधि दानीश्वरा जय जटाधर अभयंकरा। निरंकार स्वरूप कालेश्वर महायोगीश्वरा, दयानिधि दानीश्वरा जय जटाधर अभयंकरा, जय जटाधर अभयंकरा। शूलपाणि त्रिशूलधारी ओगरी बागंबरी, जय महेश त्रिलोचनाय विश्वनाथ विशंबरा। शूलपाणि त्रिशूलधारी ओगरी बागंबरी, जय महेश त्रिलोचनाय विश्वनाथ विशंबरा, विश्वनाथ विशंबरा। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा, कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। नाथ नागेश्वर हरो हर पाप साप अभिशापतम, महादेव महान भोले सदा शिव शिव शंकरा। नाथ नागेश्वर हरो हर पाप साप अभिशापतम, महादेव महान भोले सदा शिव शिव शंकरा, सदा शिव शिव शंकरा। जगतपति अनुरक्त भक्ति से देव तेरे चरण हो, क्षमा हो अपराध सब जय जयति जगदीश्वरा। जगतपति अनुरक्त भक्ति से देव तेरे चरण हो, क्षमा हो अपराध सब जय जयति जगदीश्वरा, जय जयति जगदीश्वरा। जन्म जीवन जगत का संताप ताप मिटे सभी, ओम नमः शिवाय मन जपत धरे पंचाक्षरा। जन्म जीवन जगत का संताप ताप मिटे सभी, ओम नमः शिवाय मन जपत हरे पंचाक्षरा, जपत हरे पंचाक्षरा। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। आशुतोष शशांक शेखर चंद्रमौलि चिदंबरा, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम शंभु कोटि नमन दिगंबरा, कोटि नमन दिगंबरा, कोटि नमन दिगंबरा। ओम ओम सीताराम पवन सुत हनुमान, राधे कृष्ण की जय। हर हर महादेव।
Home again. So we are now doing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 11. Let's read this together. Yad aksharam ved vido vadanti. Yad aksharam ved vido vadanti. Vishanti yad yattayo vitaraga. Vishanti yad yattayo vitaraga. Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti. Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti. Tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Let's read it together again. Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti, vishanti yad yattayo vitaragaha, yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Let's look at some of the key words here. Ved Vido. वेद को जानने वाला, विदो जानने वाला, जो वेद को जानने वाला है, that means the wise or the learned in the Vedas, those who are wise and are learned in the Vedas, वो जो विद्वान है. Vadanti, they say or they declare. What do they declare? Yat अक्षरम, अक्षर जो विनाश नहीं हो सकता है, जो अविनाशी है, that which is imperishable, yat yatayah, and that into which great sages go. Vitaragah, which kind of great sages go? Vitaragah, those who are self-controlled and are free of desires. Right? Vishanti, they enter. Brahmacharya charanti. And what do? They practice charanti, practice brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, loosely translated, is celibacy, but it is a lot more than that. I will explain a little later. Sangrahena pravakshya. That Bhagwan is saying, I'm going to explain about that. So, in this verse, all these words that we read, they are saying that those who are wise and are learned in the Vedas, they declare that that which is imperishable and that into which great sages who are self-controlled and free of desire enter, and who desiring to enter there practice brahmacharya. I'm going to explain about that to you now briefly, says Bhagwan Krishna to Arjun. तो वेद के जानने वाले विद्वान जिस परम पद को अविनाशी कहते हैं और जिसमें आसक्ति नहीं है, वे आसक्ति रहित है, ये ऐसा मुनिजन प्रवेश करते हैं और जिसकी कामनाओं से वे ब्रह्मचर्य का पालन करते हैं, उसको मैं तुमसे संक्षेप में कहता हूँ. So Krishna Bhagwan says to Arjun that state which knows of the Vedas called Akshara, the imperishable Om, the Om sound, into which the Munis who are free of attachment and desire and who practice brahmacharya to achieve that state, I will now briefly explain that state and how you can achieve it. So, a few points here. Firstly, I want to talk about the word brahmacharya. Brahmacharya generally is translated as celibacy. That means abstinence from sexual activity. And most people apply that word brahmacharya only to those who are not married. That is also correct, but brahmacharya also applies to those who are married. And there it does not mean abstaining from sexual activities. There it means that sexual activities are engaged in only within the bounds of marriage, without any lust and desire, for the purpose of procreation. So, coming back to what we said here, what makes knowers of the Vedas wise? Because Bhagwan starts off here by saying, Ved Vido, जो विद्वान लोग वेद को जानने वाला है, why are they called wise? Because they don't just know the theoretical knowledge of what the Vedas are saying, but they have a thorough understanding, and they therefore declare, not to others, to themselves, that the imperishable Brahman or Omkar is worshipable. In other words, all that the Vedas are saying, eventually the understanding we should come to is that there is this imperishable Brahman who is worshipable. This Bhagwan that we refer to is worshipable. That's what the Vedas are telling us. Knowing that and acting according to that makes these people wise. So, knowers of the Vedas are considered to be wise because they don't just know it theoretically, but they understand it, and their lives are built around that understanding. So, this meditation on the syllable Om is actually what various Upanishads, including the Katha Upanishad, talks about. And they advise us to meditate on this Om syllable, this Brahman, imperishable Brahman. But in current times, meditation on recognized avatars, जो भगवान का अवतार है, उन पर ध्यान करना, that is also will serve the same purpose. So meditating on the Omkar is good, not easy for everybody, but we have an equally good way if we can focus our attention and meditate on one of the recognized avatars of Bhagwan. Then here, Bhagwan is talking about some of the obstacles to our meditation. So these obstacles arise because of our own distraction. What causes this distraction? Our attachment to material things and our desire. These are the obstacles. And when there isn't self-control, when we cannot control our minds. So, quite often when we achieve something good, we fall down from that. So, for example, you might be sitting every day and doing japa and trying to focus your mind on an image of Bhagwan. And while you are in that state of meditation, you suddenly realize, hey, I have this image of Bhagwan in my mind. That realization is good. But when your mind starts saying to you, I have achieved, I'm so good, that is a distraction. That means the mind is running away. And you do something good and then you speak about it to others. That actually reduces the benefit of doing good. So controlling the mind is an essential part of all of this, right? So Munis, therefore, abandon desire and attachment. And this abandoning of desire, this renunciation, paves the way for them to achieve the ultimate goal of meditation. And what is the ultimate goal of meditation? To focus on Bhagwan permanently, all the time. We must be able to focus on Bhagwan. So, this is very nicely explained on how renunciation eases the path by Swami Chinmayananda. He explained this with a beautiful analogy. He says that renunciation is part of natural blossoming. If it is natural, it shouldn't cause us difficulty. Okay? So what he says is that the beautiful flower sheds its petals. It renounces its petals. It renounces and sacrifices its soft, fragrant petals. It sacrifices its comforts, perhaps, associated with those petals. But that only happens, that abandoning of the petals only happens when the flower is pollinated. That means it has achieved a particular state. This is the maturing of the flower to give up its petals. So when we mature, we too will easily give up the attachment in order to achieve the fruit. So when the flower begins to give up its petals, only then does it change into a fruit, does it transform into a fruit. The petals or the attachments fall off naturally or automatically when our meditation begins to mature. In our lives, renunciation should not be difficult. It should not be sad to engage in a renunciation. It should not be a self-denial. If not, how can we give up these things that we are so fond of? It must come as a natural consequence, as a natural result of your discrimination. The discrimination means you realize what is good and you stick to that and give up everything else. So this freedom from attachment that we are talking about, it becomes a natural growth out of that attachment. So when you naturally grow away from attachment, that eventually results in complete freedom from attachment. At freedom, you move away, you grow out of attachment to the finite material objects. So the more attachment we have, the greater will be the disturbance in our minds. And to improve our opportunity to succeed, we must reduce our desires and our attachment. And eventually, naturally be meditating on the Supreme Lord. But that natural meditation on the Supreme Lord requires us to give up our attachment, because the two cannot go together. If there is a little bit of attachment, then the mind will be a little bit agitated and you cannot focus fully on your meditation on Bhagwan. If there's a little more attachment, then there'll be a little more agitation and disturbance of the mind. And that means there will be less opportunity to focus on Bhagwan. So this is what Bhagwan is going to explain in the following verses very briefly. Jai Shri Krishna. We're now going to go on to Ramayana. We are reading today Balkand, Doha number 343. But first, let's do the invocation. Jehi Sumirat Siddhi Hoy Sitaram Gananayak Karivar Badana Karau Anugraha Soy Sitaram Buddhi Rashi Subhagun Sadana Mukha Hoy Vachal Sitaram Pangu Chadhai Girivar Gahana जासु कृपा सुदयाल सीताराम द्रवो सकल कलिमल दहन नील सरोरुह श्याम सीताराम तरुण अरुण बारिज नयन करौ सुमम उरधाम सीताराम सदा क्षीर सागर शयन कुंद इंदु समदेह सीताराम उमारमन करुणा अयन जाहि दीन परनेह सीताराम करो कृपा मर्दन मयन बंदौ गुरुपद कंज सीताराम कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि महामोहतम पुंज सीताराम जासु बचन रवि कर निकर सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। अच्छा, दोहा number 343 of Balkand. बीच बीच बरबास करी मगलोगन सुख देत अवध समीप पुनीत दिन पहुंची आई जनेत सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। राम सिया राम जय जय राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम हने निशान पनव बर बाजे भेरी शंख धुनि हय गय गाजे जांझी विश्रव दिंडी भी सुहाई सरस राग बाजहि सहनाई राम सिया राम जय जय राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम पुरजन आवत अकनी बराता मुदित सकल पुल कावली गाता निज निज सुंदर सदन संवारे हाट बाट चौहटपुर द्वारे राम सिया राम जय जय राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम गली सकल अर गजा सिंचाई जहाँ तहाँ चौके चार पुराई पना बचारु न जाई बखाना तोरण केतु पताक बिताना। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। सफल पूग फल कदली रसाला। रोपे बकुल कदम्ब तमाला। लगे सुभग तरु पर सत धरनी। मणिमय आल बाल कल करनी। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। विविध भांति मंगल कलश गृह गृह रचे संवारी। सुर ब्रह्मादि सिहाही सब रघुपर पुरि निहारी। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। So we are reading about the Bharat Lotse Hai, that the Bharat is returning to Ayodhya. तो बीच बीच बरबास करी मग लोगन सुख देत. On the route to Ayodhya, while they are moving towards Ayodhya in the chariots and on foot etc. बीच बीच में सुंदर मकाम करती है. They camp on the way. Sundar makam. They stopped and camped. And what were they doing there? Why did they stop and do that? Not only for rest, it says, मार्ग में लोगों को सुख देती हुई वह बारात पवित्र दिन में अयोध्यापुरी के समीप आ पहुंचे. So they were giving joy to the people on the route. So on any happy occasion, we must be able to share our joy with others. We shouldn't only share our sorrow with others. There's no harm with sharing our sorrow with others and getting their support, but we must also share our joy with others. So if, for example, you come into some extra money, you shouldn't hoard all of that money. Obviously, you will budget and save some of it, but you should share some of it with those who are deserving, with family, with friends, even those who are not even related to you. Okay? So sharing this joy on the route, what did they do? The Bharat, Pavitra Din mein, on a pure day, on an auspicious day, Ayodhya Puri ke Sameep aa pahunche. They didn't reach Ayodhya yet. Uske Sameep, close to. They came close to Ayodhya. Hane Nisan Panav Barabaje, Bheri Sank Dhuni Haya Gaya Gaje. So various musical instruments are mentioned here. नगारों पर चोटें पड़ने लगी, सुंदर ढोल बजने लगी, भेरी और शंख की बड़ी आवाज हो रही है. So all of these instruments, drums were being beaten, they were blowing the shank conch shells, trumpets were sounded, and various other instruments, cymbals, etc., were being played. Where? In Ayodhya. The Bharat hasn't reached there yet, but they were preparing. विशेष शब्द करने वाली झांझे, सुहावनी डफलिया तथा रसीले राग से शहनाइयां बज रही है. All of these musical instruments were being played in tune, very nice, sweet music. And I'm certain it was of a celebratory nature to welcome Ramchandraji and his brothers with their brides to Ayodhya. So, बारात को आती हुई सुनकर, and when the people of Ayodhya heard. So all of these musical instruments were being played in the Bharat, and that sound also carried. And therefore, when the people of Ayodhya heard these sounds, that was a signal that the Bharat is close by. Right? In modern days, they hoot in the cars, isn't that so? Okay, but I'm not sure how sweet that sounds. But these musical instruments were played sweetly. So when these sounds reached the Nagar Vasis, the people of Ayodhya, were prasanna ho gaye. They became very happy. Why were they happy? They were happy because the wedding had taken place. That's the first reason. So when somebody gets married, when two people get married, it is an occasion for others to be happy that they've come together, their families have come together. Okay, so they were happy for that. But also, they were happy to welcome Bhagwan Sri Ram back to Ayodhya. So anytime we have an opportunity to welcome Sri Ram into our lives, it should lead to happiness in us. That means the more we welcome Sri Ram into our lives, the happier we will be. And what we read in Bhagavad Gita today, the more you can focus on Bhagwan, the less you will be distracted by other things. And here it's saying the more you can invite Bhagwan into your lives, the happier you will be. When you are happy, you are not distracted by other things that would be of less, that will give you less joy. You've achieved higher joy. Why would you be distracted by other things? So welcoming Bhagwan into our lives is a reason for us to be happy. It actually brings happiness to us. और जैसे सब शरीरों पर पुलकावली छा गई, सब ने अपने अपने सुंदर घरों, बाजारों, गलियों, चौराहों और नगर के द्वार को सजाया. So what did they do in preparation? They adorned their homes, the streets, the lanes, the markets, and the crossroads, and the entire district was adorned. So this physical adornment was there, material adornment was there. But they were also adorned mentally. Each of those people, while they were doing all of this, they were doing it in the knowledge that our minds are now more and more attracted to Bhagwan. That is mental adornment. Okay? Gali sakala argaja sichai. And what else did they do? Sari galiya arag jaise sichai gai. So all the pathways, the lanes, the streets, they were all sprayed with perfumed water. Agar is a perfume, right? Jahan tahan sundar chowk puraye gaye. And in numerous places, they made welcoming designs. You know, chowk purana, they have this design at the entrance of people's homes. Don't they make this colorful design when they are having a wedding or they invite people to the homes? So that design is meant as a form of welcome. It is brightly colored to show how happy we are to welcome our guests. But it is also brightly colored to lift the spirits of the guests who are coming to our home. So here they are making these welcoming designs, brightly colored, very, very well ornate. And they used dhwaja and pataka, flags and buntings, were decorating the various areas. They made mandaps. It was so beautifully done that it cannot be described fully. Safala pug fala kadali sala, rope bakul kadamb samala. So phal sahit means with the fruit. supari, you know what is supari? Betel nut, kela, bananas, Molasiri is it's a bakul, a very fragrant kind of tree. Kadam or tamal ka vriksh lagaye, bay leaf trees as well. Tamal is a kind of bay leaf. So all of these trees with their fruit were transplanted and planted there in the district as part of the welcome. So, the question people will be thinking about is, how did they manage to take huge trees that were with fruit? So they had the technology and the knowledge of this even then. You mustn't think that only now we have cranes and therefore they can do that. We still see modern people doing this in municipalities and all. They do not destroy trees. They uproot them and put them into the ground somewhere else so that trees are still sufficient in our society, in our surroundings. So here they took these trees full of fruit, and it was so beautiful, and they were so full of fruit that Prithvi ko chhu rahi hai, that the branches began to touch the ground. That's how heavily laden they were with fruit. So it seemed as if even the trees and all of nature was preparing to welcome Sri Ram and his brothers with their brides to Ayodhya. So if nature is so excited to welcome Sri Ram, if inanimate objects are welcoming Sri Ram, how much more were the people of Ayodhya excited to welcome Sri Ram? Right? विविध भांति मंगल कलश गृह गृह रचे सवारी, एंड अनेक प्रकार के मंगल कलश घर घर सजा कर बनाए गए. So kalash, is this lota with the adornments on it. They were made in various designs and they were adorned nicely, and it was placed in front of in all the houses. घर घर सजाकर बनाए. श्री रघुनाथ जी की पुरी या अयोध्या को देखकर ब्रह्मा और सब देवता सिंहाते हैं. So when Brahma and all the devatas saw the beauty of Ayodhya, they were, if I can use the word, perhaps a little embarrassed. Why can't our places be as beautiful as this? And it could sound as if they were a little bit jealous that Ayodhya is so beautiful. We are in the heavenly regions and we are not that beautiful. So where Ramchandraji is, where Bhagwan is, it is even more comfortable, more pleasurable than even heaven. That is the message of this last part. So one comment, you'll notice that when the Bharat was coming, there was this accompaniment of music and celebration and adornment. And this is appropriate on happy occasions like weddings. But this celebration, this music, etc., did not disturb the core activities associated with the wedding. The actual pujas and rituals were not disturbed. After those were completed, then all of this tamasha and fun and excitement was appropriate. Compare this now, which we read about now, to the description given when Raja Dashrath died and the funeral was taking place. It says, Ehi vidhi dah kriya sab kinhi, vidhivat nahai tilanjali dini. And they gave a detailed description of how the cremation took place and the 10th day ceremony and all. And nowhere in that description is any mention of dhol and nagara and tabla, saxophone and other kinds of musical instruments. Because it is not appropriate. That is not a happy occasion. For a happy occasion, by all means, as long as it does not disturb the rituals and the pujas, you can have it. in sad occasions like funerals, it is not appropriate to have all of these musical instruments. On what basis am I saying this? Because Bharatji didn't have all of this in his father's funeral. I'm going to give you an incident. Years ago, I was conducting a funeral in the antechamber, and I just started reciting the mantras for people to offer the pindas. And a group of people who were there started playing the musical instruments and singing, chanting. I had to stop them because the person who was making the offerings couldn't hear what I was saying. Is that the appropriate place to play those musical instruments? That's something we should all be thinking about carefully. We'll conclude here. Katha visarjana होत है, सुनहु वीर हनुमान, आसन को प्रभु जाइए, सिया सखा सहित भगवान, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय. Jai Shri Ram. We'll have some bhajans now.
जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा. जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा. बुलवा की बिनी चुनी माला पहनावे, बुलवा की बिनी चुनी माला पहनावे, माला पहनावे बताई सारी नगरी, माला पहनावे बताई सारी नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा. कंचन की तारी कपूर के बागी, कंचन की तारी कपूर के बागी, आरती उतारे बतावे सारे नगरी, आरती उतारे बतावे सारी नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा. लौंगा इलाची की बीरा जोड़ावे, लौंगा इलाची की बीरा जोड़ावे, गिरवा कुचावे बतावे सारी नगरी, गिरवा कुचावे बतावे सारी नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, हैर जरा, ओ हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा, जनकपुर नगरी हैर जरा. ओम सीताराम पवन सुत हनुमान, राधे राम मिले त्रिवेणी में मिलेंगे कहीं न कहीं, बस प्रेम सब रहते जाओ। श्री राम मिलेंगे कहीं न कहीं, मन धीर धरो घबराओ नहीं। श्री राम मिलेंगे कहीं न कहीं, मन धीर धरो घबराओ नहीं। श्री राम मिलेंगे कहीं न कहीं।
ॐ कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। ॐ मङ्गलं भगवान् विष्णु मङ्गलं गरुडध्वज मङ्गलं पुण्डरीकाक्ष मङ्गलाय तनोहरि। ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोऽस्तु ते नारायणी नमोऽस्तु ते नारायणी नमोऽस्तु ते। ॐ यानि कानि च पापानि जन्मान्तरकृतानि च तानि तानि विनश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ अपराधसहस्राणि क्रियन्ते अहर्निशं मया दासोऽयमिति मां त्वा क्षमस्व परमेश्वर। आवाहनं न जानामि विसर्जनं पूजां चैव न जानामि क्षमस्व परमेश्वर। अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष त्वां परमेश्वर। बोलो श्री गणेश भगवान की जय। जगत जननी पार्वती माता की जय। श्री सीता रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। श्री लक्ष्मण जी की जय। श्री हनुमान स्वामी बजरंग बली की जय। श्री राधे कृष्ण भगवान की जय। श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण भगवान की जय। शिव शंकर भगवान पार्वती माता की जय। गंगा माता की जय। यमुना माता की जय। गौरी माता काली माता दुर्गा माता लक्ष्मी माता सरस्वती माता की जय। ओम नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव हर। जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे श्याम। जय सिया राम।